And so with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our colleague Jayne Davis, who is with us today to guide us. She is the Director of Covenant Scholar Wellbeing. Jayne is a career educator who has worked with the Covenant Scholars for the past 7 years. Prior to joining the staff here at Carolina, she worked for Durham Technical Community College, as an instructor, and was a school counselor for the Wake County Public School System and a director of support services and Louisburg Learning Partners at Louisburg College. She holds her bachelor's degree in psychology from Carolina, as well as a master's in rehabilitation counseling from our own School of Medicine, and then a doctorate in education from North Carolina State University. So Jayne will be joined again by our panel of students in a bit, but she's going to set us up for this conversation right at the top. Jayne, we're so grateful to have you here today, and I'm happy to turn the Zoom room over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. What a lovely introduction. I appreciate being part of this process. And let me kind of get myself straight here and get my presentation up and running. Or let's see if I can figure out how to do that. Let's see. So I need to share my screen. Here we go. Sorry, is that the top of the... Is that the tip top? Okay, can you guys see my screen?
That looks great, Jayne, thanks.
Does it look good? Okay, great, thank you. Again, I just appreciate being asked to share information on the intersectionality of mental health and finances. I'm honored, completely honored to be a part of the mental health seminar series. Thank you for joining me and several Covenant Scholars and alumni panelists today for a conversation about financial wellness. We look forward to your questions at the end. I work as the Director of Wellbeing for Carolina Covenant. Covenant is a financial aid package offered through the Office of Scholarships and Student Aid. Covenant provides scholars with resources and support beyond financial aid as well. Students are admitted through the UNC Need Blind admission process, and if a student qualifies for Covenant as a result of FAFSA and the CSS profile, they are awarded scholarships, grants, and work study funding with the opportunity to graduate debt-free. Students are notified through email in the summer. I am proud to say we are going to be celebrating our 20th year in the 2024-2025 academic year. So we know financial circumstances are difficult. There are variations of levels and personal finance situations, spending habits, needs, wants, and debt levels, just to name a few. By considering how we think about money and the emotionality around money, we can achieve the goals with the financial resources that we have, whether we have unlimited resources or live modestly. Yes, financial stress can creep up on us and knock us down, and perhaps stay with us for a while. So we're going to explore our ideas about how we think about finances, financial emotionality, the realities of financial stress, and how we think about money from a different lens. So if this presentation starts to trigger any stress or anxiety, just walk away from the presentation, take a deep breath, consider contacting a friend or a mentor or a counselor, and just know this is being recorded so that you can watch it in the future. So here are points of conversation, and please know that I am not an expert. And I do not have all the answers, but together we are going to have a conversation about financial wellness or our feelings about money. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about myself and my identity. I grew up in Pasquotank County, in North Carolina, which is in rural northeastern North Carolina, a very small little town outside of Elizabeth City. So really, really tiny country town. My great-grandfather is from Irish descent, and so are his family members. They immigrated to the United States. I'm a first-gen low-income college student myself, and I would have been a Covenant Scholar if we had had the program when I was here at Carolina. I am a double Tar Heel, very, very proud of that, and I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor by training. I'm a dog mom. You can see little Tilly here with me. We rescue Jack Russell Terriers, and she's the one who's with us now. And I've advocated for marginalized students for over 30 years. For years, it's been very difficult for me to talk about being a first-gen low-income student. I thought it meant failure or not living up to expectations. Then I figured out what success looked like for me and decided to share my story. It was very scary to be a first-gen low-income student. I was entering a new culture, full of transitions, new experiences. Nothing was comfortable. I had to try to figure it out as I went, and it was really tough. Although my parents were very supportive, they couldn't guide me through a university, navigating a university. Money was and continues to be on my mind. The American Psychological Association notes that even after the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of us still worry about money. In fact, they note that 72% of us feel stressed about money at least some of the time. This could be associated with financially impossible situations, having a fear of losing money, or not having enough money. It can be overwhelming to the point of debilitation. Just know stress does not leave anyone out. Some of the causes that we see of financial hardship are lack of financial knowledge and skills, poor financial management, unforeseen circumstances, improper use of credit, past financial trauma, intergenerational financial trauma. That's just a few. I'm sure you could probably think of many more. This can take a huge toll on us, and our brain never forgets, especially when it's financial stress or trauma. So a clinical approach to working through trauma is needed and can be beneficial as you're working toward financial wellness. I mean, I talked with some of my friends, professional friends recently who are also first-gen low-income students, and they continue to worry about money in their professional careers. Although they make plenty of money and can pay their bills, they are extremely successful. Many times I do hear from Covenant scholars that they want to major in a field where they can make a lot of money and have financial security, even if it is not their career choice. As a matter of fact, during the recent Covenant Voices study, a student mentioned that finances are always on my mind. So I want you to think about what has been financially stressful for you. Please feel free to drop this in the chat. Whoops. So that we can share this with each other, because probably other people, yes, I love credit cards. Other people are probably struggling with this too. And just want you to share that you're not the only one. Yes, Meg, school costs very expensive to go to school. And the economy doesn't help, right? What are some other things that can cause financial stress for you? Working through school, Andrew, yes, to make sure you've saved enough money. Housing, yes, Sarah, I hear you. Inflation, Amanda. Buying books, Jamie, absolutely. Absolutely. Lots of things going on, and you are just naming a few. So, you know, keep talking about this and sharing with others, because you're not the only one experiencing this. Other people are too. As I go to the next slide, maybe. Oh, there we go. Let me move this out of the way. So let's start locally. Let's start locally here with UNC. We had a Healthy Minds study just recently where we surveyed 12,000 undergrads, grads, and professional students. And you can see on here that students were worried about running out of food, having stable housing, and a higher percentage even noted that their current financial situation is often or always stressful. What I found really interesting about this is that 200 students noted that they didn't go to counseling because it was too expensive. So when we look at a larger landscape, the Ohio State University did this study on collegiate financial wellness in 2020. And they administered this multi-institutional survey to over 236,000 undergrads. As you can see, almost half of the respondents noted that they would be unlikely to come up with $400 in cash for a financial emergency in the school year. And half of the students said they considered dropping out due to these financial concerns. 3/4 of the respondents noted that they agreed or strongly agreed that they were stressed out about their finances in general. In 2023, Trellis completed a student financial wellness survey, again, another nationwide survey. And what I found interesting in this survey is that of the students who paid their bills on time, 79% followed a budget. 73% talked with someone, and of those, 44% talked with a financial aid counselor. So the American Psychological Association has noted that mental health is a crisis in our country and that finances are a leading cause of this stress. The CDC and the National Alliance of Mental Health has also reported an increase in anxiety, especially during and after the pandemic. However, what is so interesting and hopeful about all this information is that we can see in the Ohio State study that 65% of the respondents agreed or strongly agreed that they were optimistic about the future. And the Trellis survey, overall, 70% of the respondents believe that the cost of college was a good investment in their future. I love that. It gives us hope, doesn't it? So again, I want to reach out to you to contribute to this conversation. What impact, if any, has financial stress had on your mental health or your well-being? I'm moving this around to try to get to my chat. I'm having a hard time getting to my chat here. Sarah or Jesus, would you mind calling out some of the, I can't see my chat, some of the things that students or attendees are mentioning that has impacted on their mental health? Thank you.
Absolutely. There's one that says it's usually negative. It makes them worried about affording things and buying necessities. Helen says they have concerns of whether or not they will graduate with debt and how that will affect post-grad life. And I'll also just say, if you all want, you can change the two in the chat to be everyone, and that way everyone can see your answers, but I'll keep reading. General anxiety about things besides finances tend to go up when worrying about money. The ability to afford gas to go to work is an impact.
Yeah, those are big ones. Thank you so much, Sarah, for reading those. I'm sorry I can't see them, but please continue to add to the conversation, because once again, you're not the only one who's experiencing this. There are others out there who are as well. And you mentioned a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about here, that financial stress does impact our mental and physical health. You can see that cognitive and emotional stressors like disorganization and forgetfulness, hopelessness and frustration, on down to physical and behavioral results, which is, weight loss or weight gain, low energy, tension, avoiding responsibilities and procrastination, jeopardizing relationships with yourself and others, and academics. making the GPA that you would like. To the point sometimes where we see students and people in the community who want to isolate themselves. And when that happens is you can jeopardize lack of service resource utilization. So reaching out before there's a crisis, because we don't want this to ensue to unhealthy coping mechanisms or a spiral into something that's really hard to recuperate from. So these are just a few things, and just highlighting what you have put in the chat as well. So I was a low-income college student. Classes weren't the hard part. Dr. Anthony Jack talks about this and writes about this. This is an article. I love the quote, but this is an article title that he wrote for New York Times Magazine. And in this article, he shares his story of being a first-gen low-income student. He's going to be with us in the fall to speak with the university. He's going to share his story and his research. He's also going to talk about how we benefit from asking for help, building a network of support. I know many of us are independent and we have a hard time asking for help, especially in a competitive environment. Yet many resources are needed when living in a community. And I am proud to say that we have a diverse student panel with us today who've agreed to join us and to share with us the resources that they have utilized for their benefit to decrease financial stress and increase financial wellness. So we have Tavon with us, and Daniela and Aisha. And in just a minute, they're going to join us and share their stories and with a couple of minutes and talk about their cultural identity and their background. And then we have 3 discussion points that I'm going to ask each of them to share. And they're going to stay with us even after their presentation is over so that they can answer questions with me at the end. So Tavon, Daniela, and Aisha, if you would turn on your video cameras. I see Tavon. Is Aisha with us?
Jane, everybody's on my view. I can see all 4.
You can see everybody? Okay, great. Hi, Tavon. Hey, Daniela. Hey, Aisha. Thank you all for joining us today. So we are going to start with Tavon. If you would introduce yourself and give us a brief summary of your background and share your cultural identity and the topic you're going to be talking with us about today.
Of course. It is nice to meet you all. My name is Tavon Cates. I'm from Durham, North Carolina originally. I am a low-income first-generation college student as well. I come from a relatively large family. I have 7 siblings, so I sort of understand a lot of the things and how hardships can happen and whatnot. I am currently a graduate. I'm an alumni of UNC Chapel Hill. I majored in environmental studies. I graduated this past December, and I will be talking to you all about food security and budgeting.
Great. Thank you, Tavon. Hi, Daniela.
Hello.
Hi, share your introduction.
Yes, my name is Daniela. I am a 3rd-year sociology major, minoring in data science, and hopefully we'll look into doing counseling in the future. A little bit of my background: I grew up with a single mother in a Hispanic low-income household, and I will be sharing a little bit of information regarding housing, and I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, thank you, Daniela. That was
Thank you.
beautiful. Hi, Aisha. Come join us and give us your introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Aisha. I'm from High Point. I come from a first-gen low-income background as well. I'm also Pakistani American. I'm currently a senior chem major and I'm on the pre-dental track. So in the fall, I'll actually be starting dental school here at UNC. and I'll be talking about the value of work study.
Great. Thank you, Aisha. That was just beautiful, all of you guys. So I'm going to start with discussion point 1, and I'm going to ask each of you to share before we go to the next question. So Tavon, we'll start with you. Share a major financial stressor that you have experienced.
Okay, and I just wanted to apologize. I did leave sort of my cultural background out of the introduction, of course. I am African American, first generation, low income as well. So, as far as the first discussion point, one of the major financial stresses I have experienced would be finding and managing food sources, cooking, and budgeting. Many people don't initially realize the importance and difficulties that comes with eating healthily as well as sustainably while keeping your budget in mind. Food security can be a major financial stressor to many people through mechanisms that they're not able to personally control, as we have seen recently going through the COVID-19 pandemic, rising cost of living, as well as inflation. I enjoyed the quote provided previously by Dr. Anthony Jack. His classes are not the hard part a lot of the times. It does become what I have learned. It does become a little bit harder for students to pay attention and be actively available and involved when they're thinking about things such as what they're going to eat for dinner. It was difficult to analyze the pros and the cons dealing with budgeting and food security as it relates to time commitments, especially for students. Sort of going through thinking about how much time you have, allocating your time, allocating your money and your resources the best that you can, and to things that students go through as far as coursework loads, your actual workloads, having to have jobs and supplement certain things, sports commitments, as well as other recreational time commitments, finding those differences, whether it's best to eat out or whether it's best to cook at home and save some money, and just dealing and balancing, all the time that you have with your time commitments, as well as with the money and the resources that you currently have. So that was pretty much one of the biggest things that I have sort of challenged with my time here.
Thank you, Tavon. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. Hey, Daniela, if you would share a major financial stressor that you have experienced with housing.
Yes. So a major financial stressor that I face is knowing how to budget and knowing how to include utilities and also including deposits of, let's just say, this year I had to live off campus because of different accommodations that I needed. And for that reason, I needed to figure out how I was going to manage and budget the deposits and also deal with other things that could happen unexpectedly. With those things, I had to keep a lot of the financial part in mind, because if I didn't, it would just add more additional stress than I needed.
It can definitely add stress, both not having enough food or not knowing where you're going to live. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely.
Aisha? Aisha, if you would share a major financial stressor that you've experienced and how work study has been really valuable for you.
So one stressor that I went through was trying to balance my class schedule and other commitments that I had along with my work study job. So for some context, my work study position is at the dental school, and being a pre-dental student, it's been really important for me to have that position because I've been able to meet a lot of current dental students, professors, other staff members. It's been a great way for me to get a feel for the profession and really feel confident in like my application and in other like sort of networking that I do. And in addition to that, having that like financial benefit of having a work study job, basically. So the stressor that I went through was trying to balance my classes and my class schedule. So pretty recently, like being a senior and having to make sure that I meet all my graduation requirements on top of having my work study position, and then also leaving some room for outside commitments that I have, like clubs or like personal time.
Thank you for sharing that, Aisha. We really appreciate that. And work study can definitely be a part of students' financial aid package. So discussion point 2, Tavon, we're going to go back to you. Share the campus resources and strategies that you have used to cope with financial stress surrounding food. Uh-oh, we can't hear you, Tavon.
So
There you
sorry.
go.
Thank you for that. During times when it was more difficult to budget and find food sources, I began finding campus resources that I could personally utilize, as well as resources that were available to other students as well throughout the campus. I was introduced to budgeting more efficiently, starting with Dr. Davis, who provided guidance and insight to budgeting and being more conscious of food purchasing. I learned how to allocate money between my fixed and flexible income to fit my budget and my needs. She pretty much provided me with a budgeting spreadsheet, and we sort of worked through that together. I sort of, on my time, just sort of calculated, all of my expenses and everything that I had to, just wanted to make sure that I had secure going throughout the semester, just to make it a little bit easier. And then sort of finding ways to where I can sort of adjust and take some things out of my budget to accommodate, more to have more access to food and things like that. Carolina Dining Services also provides the Carolina community with a registered dietitian whom you can make an appointment with to discuss your personal dietary needs, requirements, and how to balance your diet a little more efficiently. UNC also have many campus resources to fight food insecurity for many different niches within the Carolina community, such as the Carolina Cup Board, CJ's Cup Board, Justice's Cup Board, just to name a few. And with these, they cater to a wide audience. Some of them are for undergrads. There are some that are for grad students and dental professions, in medical school, as well as different. There's usually something within different niches. So looking for those and finding those and utilizing those when you need them has definitely been a help for me. The Carolina Cupboard also provides an e-cookbook for you to view, which you can find online to assist in making meals with the items that are available to you. So that also takes away a little bit of that stress component. If you think, maybe cooking isn't really your thing, there's an entire cookbook that has a lot of the ingredients that they utilize within the pantry so that you're able to sort of make those on your own without that added stress of, thinking about what it is that you're cooking. So those are just a few of the resources that I have found and utilized through my time at UNC.
Those are a lot of great resources, Tavon. Thank you so much for sharing. We're fortunate to have them on our campus. So Daniela, if you would share the campus resources and strategies that you have used to cope with financial stress surrounding housing, that would be lovely.
Yes. So some of the resources that I've used are budgeting sheets and being able to budget the expenses of housing and including like utilities, whether it be power, and different other things. And also I have to include like food costs. And with the help of that, I've also gotten help from the Office of Scholarships to help me talk about that and see if it was a feasible option for me. Considering all that, I also spoke with different people who have moved off campus. So I would say being able to talk with people who have been in that position to move off campus. Although I was in the previous year able to live on campus, I think it was a good option for me to live off campus because I needed to accommodate to different things that were happening in my life. But I think the Office of Scholarships is a good place to go when it comes to talking about what you can afford and different things. And I also would like to mention the Dean of Students. They're very helpful. If you have the time to talk with one of the people over there, it would be very time efficient to do so.
Great, thank you. Thank you. You've really utilized your resources to think about the difference between living on campus and living off campus. And I know that's a big concern for a lot of students. Aisha, could you share the resources and strategies that you've used to cope with financial stress surrounding your work study?
So one of the main resources I used was academic advising. So a lot of what I did with them was figuring out what classes I needed to graduate and figuring out how I could split those classes between the semesters to make my schedule a little bit more manageable. So I was able to work with them with that. And I also was able to talk to the head of the department for one of my minors. That helped me figure out what classes were being offered in the next semester, just to make sure that I was getting that requirement out of the way for graduation. Um, I also talked to my work study supervisor to talk about like how many hours I need to work per week, what days I would work, what fit with my schedule. I was also able to send them my class schedule so that they knew exactly what times I would be available.
Mm.
And also I dropped by the Covenant office and talked to Dr. Davis a little bit, just to, talk it out and just to know that like I have resources to help me out and to support me.
Aw, you guys are so kind to mention me. It's delightful to be working with you, and it's also nice to be able to work on campus and to work with your supervisor and your academic advisor to get the assistance that you need. Very, very nice. So we're going to move to discussion point 3. So Tavon, how has using the resources supported your financial well-being surrounding food?
Of course, utilizing and discovering the many resources Carolina has to offer has allowed me to be able to feel less stressed and to make more conscious and insightful decisions about what to buy to eat, as well as allocating income post graduation. There's just some things that I've just carried with me since I have graduated, sort of finding, the services that you need, especially post graduation, it can be a little difficult and different for other people. So even outside of Carolina and thinking about, your local city and the state and sort of looking for resources that can help you or benefit you outside of your time here has definitely been something that I've carried with me since I have graduated. It can be difficult to focus and pursue. One thing that I've learned that it can be difficult to focus and pursue the academic career that you deserve while thinking about what you're having for dinner or any financial barriers which can happen or arise during your time. So again, sort of finding those resources and trying to find them as quickly as you can when you sense something is probably not right or something is going to happen. Just sort of being mindful and being wary and cautious and try to think through it. Um, Try to think through it as best as you can and sort of find those resources a little bit earlier. Utilizing the resources on campus has helped me increase my confidence as well as my academic career. Once I personally, decided to sort of get help, it was like something that I couldn't really do on my own. And again, I am one of those independent type of people. So once I realized, this is something that I need help with, it sort of boosted my confidence a little bit. And then within there, I just saw my grades excel, and that was a great thing to see. Utilizing the resources also helped me to create a sense of community sort of here as well as, other places, and that you don't have to go through these circumstances alone. I still utilize the budgeting form that was provided to me, as well as many of the other tips that I've received along the way since I graduated, to sort of ease the stress of food security and other financial stressors in times like this of inflation, raising, cost of living, as well as other economic factors. If there is one thing that I would recommend to, the webinar as well as the panelists here, is to sort of seek help when you feel that it's needed and not to wait until it becomes a greater problem. So sort of just being a little mindful and cautious of, those things to keep that in. Yeah.
You bring out some incredible resources, Tavon, and also to think about building your community, not only while you're a student, but after you graduate, because those skills can move with you to the adulting part of your life as well, knowing the resources in your community. Thank you so much for sharing that. Daniela, thank you. Daniela, how has using the resources supported your financial well-being?
Being able to use the resources on campus have been able to give me an idea of how to budget. And I think these tools has given me the opportunity to learn how not only to budget for right now, but also for the future. And also it's giving me an idea of how to manage debt or different things like that and be more mindful about how different things work. Also, it has given me the access to network with different people, because I know that if I don't know the answers to something, I will ask somebody else. Like if I need it, like there's been a couple of times that I've asked Dr. Davis for her help, and she's been able to guide me to the right person to ask my questions to. So definitely, I feel like it's helped me navigate these things.
Mm. That's just wonderful. And thank you for just bringing out how just fantastic our resources are on campus, and to not wait, you know, to be mindful of that. And thank you again for your kind words. Aisha, you're going to round this up for us. If you could talk about how you're using financial resources, resources has supported your financial well-being.
So using these resources, it's really helped me realize what has been important to my experience at Carolina. So my work study position was something that really helped me in my professional development. It helped a lot with, building a community and, seeing what I want to do in the future and being able to like connect with people who have the similar interests. And so being able to keep my work study and have that community has really improved like my overall experience, especially through the application cycle that I was going through for dental school. I was able to meet other people who also were going through that same process, and also talk to like professors and other people who had like advice to give me. It also really helped with just being able to reach out to people. So being able to talk to advisors throughout this process, I also realized that there are advisors at the dental school that could help me with my application. And so I was able to meet with more people to help with like other aspects related to my work study and related to my future plans.
That's just beautiful. You know, you think about a work study job and how it can just put you in a position of increased networking, especially if that's something that you would really like to do in your career. So thank you very much, or something you're considering doing. Thank you all very much. It's been lovely hearing from you. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to wrap this up a little bit. If you'll turn your cameras off, and then when we get to the Q&A, we'll bring you back on. Okay. So like our students said, our students share that our goal is to move toward financial well-being. And this is interesting. The Consumer Federal Protection Bureau traveled around the country to talk about what well-being means, not just to college students, but to the rest of us who live in the community. And they found two common themes: security and freedom of choice. So when we think about security, we think about it in the present day, how we have control over our day-to-day, month-to-month finances, but then also in the future, our capacity to absorb financial shock. And there will be financial shock in the future, many times over in some cases. Also, freedom of choice. So in the present day, to think about financial freedom, to make the choices to enjoy your life right now. But then also to think about the future, and are you on track to meet your financial goals? That could be anything. That could be buying a car, buying a house, getting married, retiring, things like that. Are you on track to meet those goals? We do recognize that we have control over some things when it comes to our financial factors, but then there are also some things that are not in our control. So I want you to think about what resources that you have used to prioritize your financial well-being. And if you haven't thought about this before, what resources, now that you've heard students and the presentation, might you use to prioritize financial well-being? And again, I'm going to ask Sarah if she could just, shout out some students and some answers, since I can't see the chat.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. We did get a plug a little earlier about Beacon Bridge, which is a community behavioral health organization that is devoted to advancing equity. So that's in the chat if others have additional resources to share. Amy, did you pop on to say something? Nope.
Sorry, I was having trouble getting myself off mute there. I was clicking the button. No, I was just here to facilitate the Q&A if indeed and when we're ready.
Great. Thank you.
We're not quite there yet. We just keep thinking about resources that could be helpful for you. And as you're thinking about them, you know, you can pop them in the chat for the other attendees to consider and to think about. But I'm going to share, let's see, moving from financial stress to financial well-being. Let's see if I can move this out of the way here. One of the things that you can, here's several things that you can do, or 4 things that you can do, and each of them actually, oops, sorry, I'm having a hard time going back. I think it's going to go all the way through. Okay, now, sorry about that. One of the things that you can do is to talk with someone. It could be from a clinical perspective, a therapist, a mentor, a peer. It could also be financial aid perspective, like credit, bankers. You could look at Consumer Federal Protection Bureau websites, things like that. We have this great Orange County Department of Health and Human Services, Economic Services Division that provide assistance. So that can be of a lot of help as well. Another thing is to take inventory of yourself and your budget. And budget is more than numbers on paper. It's about life and what you need to financially survive and not be a victim of financial stress. Berna Annett calls this being your CEO. And I love this. Her book is in my resources, actually. A friend of mine just sent that to me, and I think she just does a great job talking about this. So you want to create a budget that looks at your assets, looked at your spending and saving, and then you also, as you make that plan, you also want to identify your challenges. You know, what is some solutions to the challenges, knowing that you need to monitor your budget as you put it into action, knowing that setbacks are normal, and think about what it is that you can control. Again, you might need to work on this in a clinical setting if trauma comes up or it triggers stress, in addition to making your budget. So you can do both of those at the same time. So managing stress overall is so important. And that can come through regular exercise, getting outside in nature, relaxation techniques such as yoga, meditation. Sleep is so important. I cannot stress that enough. Eating healthy food that is nutritious and that you constantly eat that, not just once in a while. Staying connected to friends, having a mentor. You could volunteer your time. You could learn a new craft or skill. Things like that just get you connected with a community. So a Covenant scholar said in our Voices study, if I'm financially comfortable, my well-being is usually better because I have less to worry about. That makes sense, right? So I have exciting news that I'm very happy to share with y'all as I wrap this up. There's going to be a financial literacy symposium here on campus for all students. That's going to be in April in the evening at Moorhead Planetarium. So please think about coming and joining us for this. And also we are creating our first wellness center. Dr. Gilbert Rogers has been hired as the director. And here's a few words from Dr. Rogers.
Jayne, I think when you do this, you need to also share your sound.
Uh-oh. How do I do that?
That is a good question.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm looking.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure, it might be a random thought, but maybe if you muted yourself, the audio might play. Just a random thought. I'm not sure if that will work though.
Nope, I still can't hear it. It looks like when you go to share your screen, down at the bottom, like if you stop sharing for a second and then share again, down at the bottom there will be a share sound checkbox before you actually click the blue button that says share. You're still muted, Jane, just so you know.
Okay, where is that, Sarah?
So when you go to share screen and you're choosing which window to share, down at the
Okay.
bottom of that whole window, there should
Mhm.
be a share sound checkbox.
Sorry, you guys. Ooh, I don't see it.
No.
Hey Jane,
Mhm.
what she said, so you hit the green button that says share screen, and then you're gonna look at all the screens you can share. It's gonna be on the bottom left that says share sound.
Do you see it?
We can see it, yep. Oh. We can see your screen being shared, but do you want to try playing it again and see if it worked? Nope, it still didn't work.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
no. Do you want me to? I'm so sorry. I can put it in the chat.
Sure. Yeah, then folks can watch it later.
Yeah, and they can watch it later. I am so sorry because Dr. Gilbert did this wonderful presentation on what he's going to be doing. And if I can figure out how to share it, then we'll do that. We'll do that in a few minutes. I'm so sorry. But we want you to connect with us. Covenant has an Instagram page that is just lovely. And of course, I'm really partial to the Wellbeing Wednesdays. You can connect with us through the Carolina Covenant email, and our student and alumni panelists wanted you to make sure that you could connect with them if you have questions as well. I have resources for you. I think 4 pages of resources. Share those real quick, but they have links to them as well, from resources on campus to national resources to conferences if you're interested in learning more, articles, books, and links, things we've talked about today, and then also the studies that we pulled information from. So that is it. And while Amy's, one thing I do want to say, that if you're not getting the Healthy Heals newsletter, that is definitely worth subscribing to that, because the March 11th newsletter had information on financial wellness, which was huge. So just want to give a shout out to Sarah and her team for what you guys are doing.
Fantastic, Jane. Thank you so
Stop sharing
much.
my
I'm
screen.
sorry about that video, but
Me
you
too.
shared a great deal with us, and you've answered a couple of things that I had in my notes for questions. So the PowerPoint presentation, as we typically do, will be available on our Heals Care Network website. So please feel free to go back and use that as a follow-up resource, in particular to get that great list of resources that Jane provided at the end, because that's typically something that we ask of all our speakers, that if folks are interested in learning more about this topic and identifying some possible sources of additional information or support, where they could get those. So Jane has provided those for us. us already, and that's wonderful. So at this point, we have reached the Q&A portion of the program. So by all means, folks, if you have questions for either Jayne or I think safe to say for our students also, Jayne, correct?
Yes.
Please feel free to put those in the Q&A, and that will allow everybody to see them. Folks can upvote. You can submit anonymously. It can be a great way for us to have our typical, usual, really engaged conversation at the end of this program. So maybe just to get us started, Jayne, something that I also like to ask everyone, and you teed this up for us a little bit by sharing a good bit about your history in your background, potentially, I believe, how it motivated you to this job. But if somebody has listened to this particular presentation and says, I want to be Jayne Davis when I grow up, how do you recommend that folks get involved, get engaged, pursue themselves, prepare themselves either academically or through other means in order to take on these kinds of roles, particularly to support students who are experiencing any kind of hardship, but especially as it may relate to financial insecurity, again, short or long term? How might they do that?
Oh, wow. Wow. Want to be like me when they grow up. That's just so kind. Are you sure? Well, I've been an educator for so long, and I think one of the things for me in this position was like coming back home to Carolina, since I graduated from here a couple of times. But the thing of it is about well-being is that I wish that I had had these resources when I was here at Carolina. And so now we have them, and I can also talk with students about the things that I wish people had talked with me about. So I think that's just really important to just think about that and think about how you might want to contribute or give back to the ways that have supported you in your life, and what would be helpful to do. I've had many mentors. I've had a lot of support, just a lot of support and learning, building that curiosity and going to conferences and reading and meeting people and all sorts of things. So just put yourself out there and let that curiosity fly.
You raised a really good note, and one that I think often we don't mention here in the way that we should, but the value of professional development and conferences, especially too, if somebody's sort of already in this field, but wanting to hone more closely in on this. Are there particular conferences or programs or resources that you have found especially helpful to your work in this field and that other folks might consider?
Well, one of them is not technology, as you could see.
No judgment, no shame, Jayne.
Sorry
We've
about
all
the
been there.
technology. I was just trying to provide you guys with everything I possibly could. As a licensed mental health counselor, I go to a lot of conferences on mental health. And I also can appreciate that there are some resources out there. This is one that I really like. Let me pull it up. It is NEFI. It's the National Endowment for Financial Educators. And I haven't been to their conference, but their website is tremendous. And they have a scholar, a resident scholar who talks about the financial trauma. And so I don't think we can be, I think we all need to think about how that informs us and how we think of money based upon financial trauma or intergenerational financial trauma. And she really talks about that. So it's, being your CFO or your CFO of your budget and of your life is really good, but then also looking at the other things that are out there and considering the emotionality that's involved.
That's great, very helpful. We do have a question in the Q&A. An individual has written in and asked if you have any advice regarding resources that can help you manage your tax return, especially if you have another gig aside from, I'm assuming, your sort of primary role beyond the W-2.
Wow, that's such a big one. And we don't offer tax advice, but I will say in the Healthy Heals newsletter, that Sarah and her interns highlighted VITA, And I think that would be really important to reach out to VITA. It's escaping me what VITA means. Oh, volunteer income tax assistance, that you can get assistance with here on campus if you have questions about that.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Again, please feel free to indicate any other questions that you may have in the Q&A. I assume some of these came across in, several of these points came across in your presentation today, Jayne, but as you were sort of thinking about what are the things when you reflect being, back being a student, what are the things that you wish somebody would have told you, or maybe, and this is a question that I'm always interested in, what would you go back and tell your younger self now, being Jayne Davis, Dr. Jayne Davis, what would you tell her?
Oh boy, yeah. That there are resources. You just have to hunt and find them. Sometimes they can be hard to find, and sometimes they can be right there in front of you. But just thinking about what's out there, what is it that you need? Where is the gap? And what is it that you might need? Do you need help with academic advising? Planning out, like Aisha said, planning out your schedule so that it's balanced. That would have been really helpful for me to know and for me to have thought about. When I was here, you went to your advisor to get your PIN so that you could enroll in classes. And so that's changed a lot now. Our academic advising can help us to think through balancing not only our semester, but our year, and also the whole time we're here. And I think that for me would have been incredibly helpful. I think counseling and psychological services, it would have been nice to know that I could have gone to someone, and talked to someone about this. That would have been incredibly helpful for me. And again, if we had had Covenant when I was here, I wouldn't have had to take out loans to go to school, because I definitely would have qualified. I would have met the Pell Grant opportunity there.
Yeah, appreciate that.
But
I'll take a
they're just
moment of
very-
personal privilege too, and I appreciate the shout out for Healthy Heals, and
Oh,
also
yeah.
acknowledging CAPS. I agree with you, such an important resource.
Yeah.
And you noted up at the top that many folks indicated concern about paying for those resources was something
Mhm.
that deterred them from pursuing it. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure for any students who are, listening today, a reminder that CAPS services are covered by your student health fee. So there is no additional cost to pay for to cover the vast majority of services that we offer in CAPS. So please, please do not let that be a deterrent to you in pursuing that. And understand too, there is a fishtail that's out there, that the wait list is this big, and there is no wait list for CAPS appointments. You can get in for triage, you can get in for an immediate appointment. We only sometimes have a shortish wait if you want to see a particular counselor, you have particular scheduling needs, but there currently is no wait list. So don't believe it if you hear from somebody that there is a wait list, because it's just not true. And it's again a myth that we have continued to try to bust. So please help us spread the word. So thank you for that. Jayne, I'm
Yeah.
curious, as you think about having worked in this field now for a period of time, have you observed some important evolution in the concerns about sort of financial need and financial insecurity? Especially, I'm just so mindful of what we've all been through over the last several years with, mental health pandemics, viral pandemics. Have you noticed some trends that would be informative for the folks in the room to be aware of?
We're just in such an uncertain time period at this point. And I think we've never seen things like this in our economy, and with the pandemic, and we're trying to economists are trying to figure things out. And I think that we have to wait and see what that's going to hold, what'll be beholden to what's happening in our economy. And this is an election year. And so that's really huge when we think about that. It's an election year, and that affects how our economy runs. And so I think it's almost like a waiting game. You know, it really is, and we just have to wait and see. But I think the most important thing is that we have Dr. Rogers coming on board, and he's phenomenal. And I just really want to get this to play for you because I want you to hear him. And I have him on a media, on my computer on media, and we might try it again, because that way you can hear what they're going to be doing in the Financial Wellness Center, from budgeting to credit cards to FICO scores. You know, what do all these things mean for us now? And it's like learning a new language, you know, trying to take care of ourselves and trying to take care of our finances. And I think that can be incredibly difficult to do.
Understand
So,
that. Let's definitely try at the end of the seminar here today. Let's give it another whirl. But just as a reminder to folks that when we load the PowerPoint onto the Heals Care Network site, you'll be able to access it there as well. So,
yay.
Jane, I don't know if you saw in the chat, Shannon has noted that she thinks we all want to be like Jane when we grow up. So, here, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Here. Okay. There is a question from a student also in the chat, I believe, that says, I'm a part of Covenant Scholars this semester, and I got a part-time job besides my work study. Does that mean I will get less help next year?
Oh, great question. And it all depends on your FAFSA. So make sure that you complete your FAFSA, and then when we receive it, then we'll be able to do your financial aid award notification. So all depends on that.
As so many things do. Thank you for that question.
Yes.
Appreciate it. All right. So folks, last call for any questions that individuals may have. If it's easier for you to plunk it into the chat, I'm keeping an eye on that, and also have our Q&A up. Otherwise,
And I
I'm
see
sorry.
Alexander. Did you see Alexander?
Oh, no. Did I miss one? I beg your pardon.
Well, it's not a question. It's just a beautiful statement.
Can you read that one? I don't think I see it right now.
I will. I just wanted to share, Carolina has absolutely changed my life, and I couldn't have done it without Covenant. Oh, I'm happy to have found a passion in helping people in our community regarding these issues, and I look forward to being able to share and work with Carolina community post-grad. Oh, thank you, Alexander. That is just so beautiful. We appreciate that.
Yeah. A real drop the mic moment. Thank you, Alexander.
Yes.
I'm sorry that I missed that one, but absolutely a lovely way to end. Well, let me just say a couple of things. I would first of all like to thank all of our presenters today. So big thank you to Jane, as well as to Tavon, Daniela, and Aisha. Thank you so much for sharing your accounts and helping us learn a little bit more about how we can support students and one another in this process through what we know is a really difficult time. As noted, the PowerPoint and more information will be up on our Heals Care Network website, care.unc.edu. We have there, it's just as though I willed it. We have upcoming a final mental health seminar on community of care, the role of social support and mental health, coming up next month. Mark your calendars. The QR code will be popping up here in just a moment. And otherwise, before we close, I would be remiss if I did not do a special thank you to Sarah Stallman, to Jesus Enriquez, who are working behind the scenes and always make these such a wonderful event, and one that seems to go so smoothly, while we know that there is a lot going on behind the scenes to make it all look simple, and you all do. So thank you so much for that. And as noted, there's the Heals Care Network website. Check it out, and the QR code will be available here momentarily. Once we pop that up, perhaps we make one last attempt to get to hear that video. And if for whatever reason that doesn't work, again, be sure to go to the care.unc.edu website for more information and to get that introduction. So thank you all for spending time with us today. A pleasure to be with you as always, and we'll hope to see you on April 11th for the next one. Have a great rest of your day and be well.
Okay, I am sharing my screen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, let's try this.
You may have to wait a second because people are probably getting the credit.
You want me, Enrique?
I think we're
Just
good.
you are?
Jesus, because we got it in the chat too.
Okay, cool.
Can y'all hear that?
Nope.
Oh,
Sorry, Jane.
but you think,
It will definitely work. Well, if you share your slides with me, I'll be able to get it in a place where the attendees can see it and I can share it with them directly. Oh, you're on mute.
All right, we'll provide that video again on the website. Thank you to Jane and everyone. Have a great rest of your day and take good care.
Thanks all.